Welcome to Home Dad Chat, brought to you by the National At-Home Dad Network. My name is Brock,
My name is Danny.
and we are here to talk about life as stay-at-home dads. So sit back, relax, and enjoy the show.
No, I don't want much. I even love handmade crafts made of macaroni. Come on now, you should know me. Times I might eat too much. No worry about my weight, got the dad bod rocking on me. Sketches on my feet, cargo shorts look good on me. I'm a dad, that's what I do.
Hey, everybody. Welcome back to Home Dad Chat. Yes, that's my Brock impression. That's all I've got. I'm not very good at it, but how could you be? Unfortunately, Brock is not with us again this week. I miss him. I do. And I hope you guys are okay with just me for another episode. We're going into the week of Thanksgiving. In fact, when this episode airs, Thanksgiving will be over. And I hope you all have had a wonderful and amazing Thanksgiving. And for any of those of you who had little hiccups, remember, you're making memories for your children. And for those of you who had larger hiccups and some issues, which often happens around family holidays, I'm very sorry to hear you went through that. And if you need somebody to talk to, let me know. On tonight's show, because Brock asked me, hey, can you do it again? And I went, yeah, sure, of course. And I thought, well, I should get a guest. That'd be cool. I've been having a lot of conversations with the new president of the National At-Home Dad Network, one Keith Nagel. And I have to say that Keith and I have gotten closer over the last couple of years with being on the board together. I've had some amazing times with him, just driving on a road trip. We've just really got into a lot of the funny parts of each other's lives. And there's a lot of parenting that does end up being funny. It's not funny in the moment, but it's funny later. And a lot of those stories and the memories that we made with our kids and the memories we have of our kids have really helped us to bond together. And I'm excited about being on the board with Keith, with him as president. He's got a lot going on. He has so much that he is looking to help encourage and grow and fulfill the mission of the National At-Home Dad Network. And I am excited, like I said, to be hanging out with him and just to learn from him. There's a lot of things that he's doing since his kids now are getting a little bit older and he's in management as I am, what he's doing for himself and for transition back into the workforce outside the home and things of that nature. He's got a lot of plans. He's done a lot already. And I just want you to get to know him a little better. I want you to know him like I do. Honestly, he's a great guy. And since we really have done enough Thanksgiving shows, and I'm kind of done with Thanksgiving shows for a little bit, and I have Thanksgiving coming up this week, so it may come up. But realistically, let's just stop. Okay, we've okay, great, great meal is a wonderful thing. Let's move on. So what I'd like to do tonight is to sit down with Keith and just kind of chat, talk, hang out. It's going to be casual, but you'll notice whenever you talk to Keith that he does have kind of a almost professional air to him. And when I say that, it's in a positive light, as in he's focusing the conversation. He's listening to you. He's taking in what you're saying, and he's looking at it in ways of how he could help you grow. And I think that's something that is easily encompassed in the phrase having a teacher's heart. If any of you have heard that before, a teacher's heart, obviously meaning that you have the heart of a teacher. You like to teach people, you like to encourage people, you like to help people learn, but also that means that you want to help people grow and to benefit from the skills and ideas and abilities that they already have. One of my favorite things now, before the convention in Milwaukee, it was something else, but now is Keith's ability to look for people who enjoy doing a task, whatever that task might be, or looking for the task that you as a person enjoys, and then finding a way to let you do that, whatever that might be. If that's technical writing, sure. If it's updating other people about, the conversations that they're having in other areas, sure. If it's just being there to encourage each other and be a big part of the vibe of the convention and of the organization, yeah, go for that. It's been amazing for me to see him do these things and kind of be behind the scenes with him. I had a lot of other things going on, so I wasn't really as much of a help as I would like to have been in the last convention, but it really helped me. It did in so many ways. So while, of course, there's no substitute for Brock Lush, we all know that. But I think we'll have a good time tonight talking with Keith and getting to know him a little bit, talking about his past, perhaps what he's done in the past for work. If you don't know, it's hilarious and unexpected. Also, just his plans for his personal growth and also the growth of the organization. We don't want to get too bogged down into the details because there's a lot going on. We're starting the new year very soon, and that's a new year for everybody, meaning the organization as well. On that note, and before I bring Keith on, I just want to remind you of, or tell you one thing and remind you of another one. The reminder is, don't forget your memberships. We're going to be looking at doing a membership drive soon. If we could put it together. Again, we're volunteers. We don't know what we're doing. We're going to do our best. But we have to remind you that your membership does help out so much. We are a nonprofit. Everything we do is geared from the donations that people give and your membership. And we sincerely appreciate your membership. The second part, something that's to tell you, this is first episode of season 4. Oh yeah. I love it. I love it. I can't believe it. We're going into 4th season. It's great. It's obviously been a few years, but it seems like it's been no time at all. This has been so much fun. And I really love not only talking to our guests, but I really love the interactions we get with you, our listeners, the members of our organization who either talk to us directly or who come to us through, digital means, text, media, whatever it might be. Really love talking to you all and really hope that we are giving you something beneficial. This is a podcast for the organization, which means if you are a member of the National At-Home Dad Network, this podcast is for you. So if there's something you want to hear, something you want to, see, quote unquote, because I don't know how many people watch the YouTube videos of our show. Who has time, right? People have time. But however you get the show, the things that you want to see on this show in the future and what you want us to talk about or things of that nature. We have a lot already scheduled, and we have some amazing guests coming up too. Through the next month or so, with the holidays and everything like that that's going on, we're all busy and we want to keep it a little lighter. But once we get past the first of the year, probably a couple of weeks past the first of the year, in fact, we're going to start getting back into having guests on and focusing on the trajectory, for lack of a better word, that we have for this coming year for the podcast and the organization. Some minor changes coming up, and I think they're all for the best. So I'm looking forward to hearing from each of you. If you want to talk to us, you know how to reach us. And I'm looking forward to bringing you content, for lack of a better word, that you enjoy. So feel like you're sitting down and having a conversation with me and Brock. And that's what we want. All right. So I'm going to get Keith on here in a minute. Here's a brief advertisement for, membership. Yeah, join us, please. And I'll be right back.
Become a member of the National At-Home Dad Network, an organization focused on providing advocacy, community, education, and support. Connecting with households where dad is the primary caregiver of the children. We do this through our webinar and podcast series, mental health support groups, regular online social events, as well as our annual convention. The National At-Home Dad Network is a 100% volunteer organization. Without the generous support of its members and the community around it, we would not be able to continue the work that we do. Becoming a member gives you access to past convention speaker presentations, the ability to vote for board members annually, and ensures that the organization's fees and bills are in positive standing. Oh yeah, it should not go unmentioned that there is some cool swag headed your way if you decide to become a member. For only $35 a year, your membership provides you with the exclusive content only we can generate. And you'll be supporting an organization that benefits families all around the country and world. By advocating for them, offering them community, providing education and guidance, and supporting them to grow in their parenthood journey. And one last thing, if you contribute $500 or more, you will become a lifetime member. Not only will you receive everything already mentioned, but also a certificate recognizing your status and an exclusive National At-Home Dad Network challenge coin with our trademark logo, Dads Don't Babysit. So, what are you waiting for? Become a member today.
Welcome back, everybody. And I have the man, the myth, the legend, Keith Nagel with me. Keith, how you doing?
I'm doing great. How are you, Danny?
I'm good. I'm having a really good day, really good night. So it's been, the kids are doing their final day of school for this week. Yep. So they are go to bed when they want to go to bed at this point. We have the next 6 days to get them back on schedule. So it's been really fun because the schools have been doing a lot of stuff today. They did a bouncy house or bounce castle, whatever you call it, outside the school, and it was 38 degrees.
I was going to say it snowed this morning.
Yeah, it didn't snow here. We didn't get any.
Yeah, we got snow here a little bit.
Nice.
Yeah, so I'm surprised
awesome.
They did bounce houses at all in Wisconsin.
Yeah. Well, then I was thinking, did we plan this? I mean, the people that plan this, do they live here? Have they lived here for a while? Because I wouldn't, and I've only been here 2 years. But
that seems
at the same time, you offer, but they could have put it up in the gym, I think, maybe if that was an alternative, but no, it was outside. And my son came home. He's like, yeah, it was really cold, but it was a lot of fun. Like, cool. I'm glad you enjoyed it. And I have to imagine too, your 4th, 5th grade, you don't care how cold it is. You're going to get out there and play, You don't wear a jacket to school half the time. You don't wear a coat. That's fantastic. So how old are your kids?
My kids are 7 and 9.
7 and 9. Okay.
Yes. They're coming up. The 9-year-old will be 10 in February. So getting close.
All right. Yeah. Double digits. How you feeling about that?
Old.
Yeah.
Old.
Yeah.
But no, it's nice. They are, they're getting to a point where like they are more independent, and my role as a dad is shifting. So like they can get up in the morning and they get their tablets, and sometimes like on school weeks, sometimes they'll come down and they'll have already put a bagel in the toaster and like are making breakfast. So
yeah,
there's definitely some advantages to them getting older for sure.
Yeah. I don't think it would work for you because you enjoy like coffee in a level that I don't. I just want a hot cup of coffee. I don't care. And I've trained my kids to make me coffee. And I have to say, that's the thing for my 10-year-old. He will come find me like tomorrow. He'll come find me wherever I'm at, outside, workshop, whatever. And he'll say, Dad, have you had any coffee? And even if I've had coffee, I'll tell him no, because all he wants for whatever reason, I'll make you a cup of coffee. Here you go, Dad, and spill it all up and down the stairs. And it's fine. But it's great. It's one of the, I think, returns on investment that I really appreciated.
Yeah.
And I mean, they made dinner last night. We had pretty good spaghetti. It wasn't, this sounds arrogant, but it wasn't my level of spaghetti sauce, and I think that makes sense. They don't know about, how to layer flavors and spices and all that. And I've been doing it for a long time, but it was good. And I didn't have to cook it and I didn't have to clean up.
Yeah. That makes it taste.
That's what I want, doesn't it? Yeah.
Yeah.
So we've talked in the past a little bit about where you're going from here. Not necessarily in the organization, at least not first, but what you're looking to do. It sounds like, if I've got it correct, that you want to transition to a job outside of the home. Is that kind of where you're leaning?
Yeah, I'd say that I currently have 2 possible scenarios. One is I was looking into, after planning the convention and helping bid those locations for the last 3 years, and I really enjoyed doing that. I started looking into like, all right, well, how could I do this as a career, right? So how do you event plan? Corporate event is kind of what I was thinking, not really weddings. Yeah. So, but there's remote jobs that you could do that, which would allow me to stay in the house and still be available. There's local jobs that I've applied for. So I'm kind of working on that. But then the other route is that there is a zoo here in Madison, and they have basically part-time zookeepers that I applied for this in June, And then I got an email last week that they were finally doing interviews. And they're like, if you're still interested, please let us know. So we'll see if that works out. I've done part-time zookeeping before.
Yeah.
Clearly what I did for 10 years before this.
Yeah.
And the hours, with the way my kids go to school, the hours work. And they're at this age where, they're 7 and 9, soon to be 10 and 8. So like they can get off the bus at 4:15. If I'm in the zoo till 5, I get home like 5:30. They're responsible enough, and it would be kind of good for them to have this, like, hey, you have an hour where you guys got to get yourself snacks, you got to get do your homework, and you guys are on your own. So we're kind of at that stage, and this might work out. It might work out great because it's a limited time thing. You're limited to only 1,200 hours a year. So like maybe it's a thing I do while they're in school, and then I don't do it during the summer while they're off. So it might work out
that'd be
great.
cool. Yeah. Well, whatever you do, I do hope it works out very well for you. And I mentioned in the intro that we might get into what you've done in the past. And I learned this on a road trip back from a convention at, I can't remember, 11:30, 12 o'clock at night. It was really late, but we were driving from, what was it, Chicago to Madison?
It was Chicago to Madison. At least at my half. You continued on.
Yeah, I kept going. I don't remember anything after dropping you off. I think I stopped at a Quick Trip, got some gas and like a hot dog or something disgusting, and just let that nausea keep me awake through the whole way home.
The delicious roller flavor.
Yes. But we talked about, and I honestly, I did not believe you. I mean, it wasn't like I think Keith is lying, but it was just, I was incredulous. Are you kidding me that you were a zookeeper for a long time and that you took care of tigers?
I did.
And I don't mean this negatively, but I don't see you, like, I don't look at you and go, oh yeah, that's Keith. He was probably, he trained tigers, or I don't know. It's not really training, I guess. It's more raising tigers. But again,
it's a little bit of both.
Okay. All right. Well, after, Tiger King, I'll admit, and that was huge, so big during the pandemic and what have you. And to hear you talk about it, it just would not connect in my head. And I know you and I have talked about that in the past, but I'm glad that you brought it up because, like I said, I did say in the intro that I thought maybe we would want to talk about that. So you want to get back into it. Is that specifically with a specific animal or just zookeeper general? Where's your thoughts on that one?
My thoughts on this are, so I did it for 10 years, right? And I would say that of that 10 years, I was fully employed for 6 of them. And then the other 4 were in this temporary situation, right? So because my wife, works full-time, has benefits, all that stuff, I have this option to take these temporary jobs. And the advantages of that is that your schedule can be flexible as far as like when you work, and they ask you if you're available and you can say yes or no. But it also allows you to get a lot of experience with animals that you maybe didn't work with before, because you're covering keeper weekends, you're covering people when they get injuries and they are on like workers' comp. You come in, take over the unit while they're healing up, that kind of thing.
What kind of injuries? I'm just checking. Is this like animal injuries, or are we talking about this guy slipped on the ice? What are we talking about, Keith?
There's definitely a slip in the ice that I believe I have covered one of those. I mean, but a lot of times, like people who want to become zookeepers do that for life, and I don't say that lightly. Like many of them do not retire. That is the job that they do for a long, long time. And depending on what you're working with, like if you're working with birds and you're just hosing bird droppings, that's not, you might get arthritis in your wrist doing that. But if you're working with elephants, where you're picking up elephant poop with a shovel, and that weighs a good 60 to 70 pounds, that's bending, that's back issues, that's knee issues. It's a very physical job, depending on what animals you're working with. So there's definitely worker comp happens for sure. And they need that backup because those animals have to be taken care of. So
you don't have a choice. You
don't ever have a choice. So, I mean, when I was doing it, I really enjoyed my I would say strength is in presentations.
Mhm.
So doing free flight bird shows is what I started out with at Walt Disney World.
Mhm.
And that's training parrots to fly from A to B, working with hawks and eagles and owls,
Yeah.
chickens, training chickens to go from, when I
Sure.
say A to B, like on a stage, if there's two doors, you're training them to run from door A to door B. That would be A to B. And you
Yeah.
started out at you have two crates, you have them in one crate, you let them out, and you've trained them to go to the other crate. And you slowly move the crate until it's all the way off the stage at the other door. And so
Mhm.
they're learning it as it goes. And
Yeah.
a lot of times you run it backwards. You actually start at B and you work it towards A. Um,
I know this may sound odd, but I am impressed with anybody that can train a chicken. Chickens, I don't have a lot of respect for the intelligence of chickens or their ability to learn things. I really don't. I mean, they follow each other around and eat each other's poop. And
that's the
it's
thing.
just
You just have to find the smart one. If you find the smart one and you train that one, the rest will follow.
Oh, okay. All right.
Yeah.
So I figured you'd eat the rest, but that's just me. That's just how I roll. Well, I love that you've done this too. I like that you said that the place where you excel is presentation.
Mhm.
And the reason I like that is because it's so often that people don't know who they are or what they're doing or what they want to do. And you go through your life and you're 50 something years old and you're thinking, what do I want to do with my life? Who am I? What am going on? Was it in doing the presentation that you found that it was something you really enjoyed, or did you look at it ahead of time and say, I kind of want to show the birds off, or whatever you did?
Well, I mean, I knew that I wanted to be a zookeeper since I was in middle school.
Oh, okay.
It's been a long time. I raised pigs and cattle in 4-H and
Hmm.
FFA. So like I started in like 5th grade raising pigs.
Yeah.
And I'd take them to the fair, sell them at the auction, do it again. And so I did all that through, primary schools.
Hmm.
And in middle school, I decided I wanted to be, first I wanted to be a marine biologist, right? As everybody
Yes.
does.
Yes.
And then I did some research on it and I was like, oh, there's only so many marine biologists. And I also
Hmm.
can't swim that great. So maybe I shouldn't do that. So then I branched into more broad, like, okay, I want to be a zookeeper instead. And
Hmm.
so I found a zookeeper for a day program that my parents, asked my parents to do that. They signed me up. It was like a weekend thing where we did that at the local zoo. And then I asked them the questions while I was there of like, how did you get into this? What education did you get? How would you recommend I do this? And at this point, I was maybe a freshman in high school, I think, when I
Okay.
did this, or
All
younger.
right.
And so I got,
That's impressive.
yeah. So it was a goal that I've had for a long time, and I pursued it.
Hmm.
And part of that pursuit, and part of that, actually, what I was told was, you have to be able to move. And at the time, I was told, because she came from Florida, she was like, if you move to Florida, there are so many facilities there where you can get in that first entry, because
Yeah.
most zoo jobs require experience, and you're either volunteering for years to get that experience, or you're moving to places where they will hire new
Hmm.
people, because there's just so many different zoos and animal facilities down there. So
Yeah.
that's what I started looking into, and I went down with a Disney program,
Hmm.
and did. I applied twice in college to do that, and the second time I did like an advanced. So I didn't go sell popcorn. I went down and worked in Animal Kingdom, and it required a specialized degree. So like I had a zoology degree, or I was working towards a zoology degree.
Hmm.
And I did a thing where we spent the day around Animal Kingdom playing games with kids and imparting conservation messages while doing that, because that's part of Animal Kingdom's thing, is connecting people with nature, pushing conservation.
Oh,
Um,
cool. Yeah, that makes
that's
sense.
yeah, that's their whole message and
Yeah.
mission. So we did that for 6 months, and that's kind of where that presentation thing came in, and being able to have those conversations with people of all ages, kids of all ages, and adjusting your conservation message for what age they are and what they'd be interested in, you know. So like we had this thing where you reach inside and you guess what's inside there, and in one of them there was a pine cone, you know, and so most of the young kids could figure out that that's a pine cone, and you'd give them hints if they can't get there. And then, you know, with the pine cone, the thing is, you know, like what can you do to make a pine cone, you know, you can make it into a bird feeder, and have the birds come to your house and you can watch them, you know, like that's a young kid level.
Yeah.
And then there's others, like there was an antler in there, and you talk to them about how antlers are different than horns, and antlers fall off every year, and you know, like a rhino horn does not. So, you know, there's different messages that you can push out for different ages. And
yeah.
So I really
That's
got into
cool.
that. Yeah. And then we did, so then my first job I got because of my 4-H experience, like working with the pigs and the cows for 8 years. And they asked some of the questions, because like they asked, you know, how I showed, because you show the pig to a judge, and they were asking me questions about like what kind of training was I using when I was doing this. Is it positive reinforcement? Is it positive punishment? Is it positive reinforcement? So because there's 4 of them. There's positive reinforcement, positive punishment, negative reinforcement, and negative punishment.
Okay.
And
Yeah,
they're
I see that.
confusing. Yeah, they're confusing because positive and negative. But what it really is you're either introducing something, that's a positive, or you're taking something away, that's the negative. And then reinforcement or punishment being you want to either encourage a behavior or discourage a behavior. Yeah.
And which one did you use? All of them? Depends on the pig.
It depends on the pig and the tool. Most of it is positive punishment when showing a pig, because most of the time, if you've ever been to a pig show with kids, most of them have
who hasn't? I mean,
who hasn't?
Pigs are awesome.
They either have a slapper, which is just a little thing of leather that they'll tap behind the pig's ear, or they have a big cane. And so when I was young, I would do the slapper because that's what they give every kid. But then as I got a little older, I was like, I'm switching to this cane because I don't like hitting, you know, and it depends on the kid, how hard the hit is. But the idea is that when you hit them on this ear, they're turning this other way. And when you show a pig, you want the pig to be between you and the judge. And as I was taught, you're creating a ham sandwich and you're the bread. You want the pig between you and the judge.
That's perfect.
The judge is judging the pig, and they need to see the pig for market purposes, you know. So that's the thing. Yeah, ham sandwich, always the pig between you and the judge. So you had to constantly turn the pig and have him go the right way. So by introducing the slapper, you're getting him to turn away from it. So positive punishment, positive punishment.
Yeah, that makes sense.
So
those 4 ways,
and
each one of them makes sense to me, at least. Just I'm wondering then, what'd you do with your kids?
Well, it was funny because we actually when I was looking for the book, because we have it somewhere. I dug it out. Oh, there. Hang on. In Orlando, when Catherine Pearlman came.
Bingo. Ignore it. Yes.
With Ignore It. And she gave her presentation. It's all about behavioral problems and how to selectively choose them. So she presented this, and I was like, this is just straight up animal training.
Well, she, if I remember correctly, she asked the question, you know, at SeaWorld, you know, Shamu, how do they make him do all those tricks? Well, they give him a fish. And my brain exploded. I mean, at that point I went, because I learned in management that if you want someone to keep doing something, like let's say, you know, Bob's over there and he got his TPA report in on time, right? And Bob either has a need for an internal or an external reward.
Mhm.
Internal is an attaboy. It's like, you did a good job. It's recognition. It's words of affirmation, whatever. And then the external is a physical thing, like a gift. Usually you don't do touch, of course, in the office. And I would go to the people that had done their things for that week, and I just gave them a pen, a ballpoint pen that said, thank you, you did a great job. And I would give that to them. And I'm like, no, this is still this kind of silly. It's what they would cherish this pen. And I'm
Yeah.
like, this was the best investment I made, I think, the entire time of my career. And when she said that, when Catherine Pearlman said that in Orlando, I went, oh, wow. And she put up a slide that said, behavior that is rewarded will be repeated.
Mhm.
And she was talking more along the lines of, well, if your kid is screaming for 3 minutes and for a cookie, and you break down and give them a cookie, then you've taught them, okay, if I scream for 3 minutes, I get a cookie. Right.
Yeah.
And I took that picture of that slide and I sent it to Marnie, my wife, and she read it and she goes, you will not use this on me. Right. And I went, no, that's not for you. No, you're way too smart to fall for that stuff. And then, of course, I use it constantly. And she's like, wait a minute. Did you do that just so I'll do it again? I'm like, no, I just think you did a great job. I really appreciate you putting your dishes in the dishwasher. This is just, I love you helping. I love seeing you getting involved with the family. And she's like, stop it. No, stop it. But it all came from that book, Ignore It.
Yeah.
And I love that you brought it up.
Yeah, it's a great, it is coming from the animal world, and you'll see it in these other things, because it's the positive reinforcement, like reinforcing the things you want, and
Mhm.
then ignoring the things you don't want and not
Right.
giving it attention. And to a degree, the cry out method
Mhm.
for getting kids to sleep at the night, it's the same thing.
Yeah.
It's you're ignoring them to distinguish the behavior of
Mhm.
waking up and crying.
Right.
And yeah,
Yeah.
it's there is definitely science behind it, as
Mhm.
controversial as some of these techniques
Yeah.
are.
Yeah. We won't get too deep into cry it out for the people that might cry about it. But I also love that the similarities between a human being and, well, let's say a pig
Mhm.
are are incredible, because the psychology of how we motivate people to do what they need to do,
Yeah.
it's very, very simple. And I see a lot of times when we talk about parenting from previous generations too, my dad was very much into the belt, and I couldn't figure it out for the longest time. And eventually I went, well, one, he didn't have the knowledge that I have. He didn't have Ignore It as a book. He didn't have anything. He didn't have the internet. So he
Right.
did what his dad did, and that's all he knew. And then I thought, but the other part of it is, it's the simplest, easiest way to get an immediate change in activity or action.
Mhm.
If some 20-foot tall guy walked up to me right now and hit me with a belt and said, stop talking, I would not say another word for like an hour. I would shut my face. And that it actually works. But that now we have our generation, your generation, and the next generation has a much more open dialogue about how to motivate people, and that it's as simple as how we would motivate, honestly, chickens, pigs,
Yeah.
cows. I'm not going to say for all animals, because tigers seem like they would be a different realm, but it's amazing that there's just such an easy transition from the things you learned as in 4-H to how you're raising kids.
Yeah, and it, especially with training, and this goes with kids as well. Not that people like to say that they're training their kids, but
Mhm.
it's all about relationships. And this
Mhm.
is also with animals. And that's why positive reinforcement has taken over the animal side of the world, is because you can talk to your kids, you can communicate with the kids, but like if you're training your dog, while a dog can understand commands, your dog doesn't necessarily understand emotions, like when
Mhm.
you're apologizing because you stepped on his tail on accident. Like, the
Yeah.
dog doesn't understand you're sorry. The dog just knows that his tail got stepped on, like that he
Yeah.
felt the pain. But if you the idea of that there's a bank, and by giving them the positives, you're putting money into the bank. And so then that relationship is building and building, and then you can use that relationship to get them to do things that maybe they wouldn't necessarily want to do. And this is like in the zoo field, you're talking about, tigers willingly lying down on the ground and offering their tail so that you can get blood out of their tail.
Wow.
Because to do blood draws, and it's a process. It's a long process, but you have to have that relationship with that tiger, where that tiger will sit there and get the little meatballs as a reinforcement, while the other trainer is over there with the tail, pulling it through, poking it with, to train it. You started out with just pulling the tail, holding it for a while, seeing how they sit, and and you move in small steps towards the point where they can actually pull blood out of the tail, and then it reduces the number of times that you have to put an animal under to get tests and things like that. So yeah, there's lots of, the zoo field has also come a long way. When you talk about dads with belts, the zoo field used to be, there's stories of, I used to work in a cat area where there was like an overhead like chain system, and there was like a crate, and so like a metal crate, so you would shift the big cat, and this is the cat house, you'd shift them into this giant steel thing that moved down the hallway, and then in the center there was a hole in the floor, and they used to flea dip them.
Oh my God.
Lower it
Oh my God.
into a flea dip bath.
Oh my God.
And then lift it back up, and then shift him back out.
I can't imagine a more angry animal at that point.
I mean, this
a wet cat.
Yeah, this is at a zoo that has been around since like 1900s. So I mean, we're talking decades.
And that's probably a modern thing for them. That's actually this is the technology we're advancing.
Yeah, at the time, I'm sure it was.
But we've moved on. Oh man, I would not want to be the guy that was trying to dip that cat, because or worse yet, once he's out and bringing him back. To it and dipping, he might get away with that, but once he comes out of that soaking wet, oh man.
Well, and he does it once, and now you got to refill that relationship bank because you just emptied it.
You have literally abused this animal by making him soak himself. Well, that was just, oh man, I can't imagine that. All right, so we do run a little bit quick on time tonight. Unfortunately, we've only got about 5 minutes or so. And I wanted to just end up asking you this question. So do you think then that your training as a zookeeper helped you to be to work with kids better and how their psychology works, or what you learned with kids then after having put in that practical application going to help you more going back into being a zookeeper?
I think zookeeping helped me with kids because, and I would say that a lot of zookeeping is observation and sitting and observing and noting the small changes, because animals in general like to hide any sickness or injury. And so you have to know that animal well enough to know he's not walking right, or that's not his normal gait. Most horse trainers would tell you, like, they can immediately tell, like, oh, that horse is not okay. And to a normal person, they'd be like, well, that horse is just running. But if you can observe that, and so I think I used that with my kids, especially when they were younger, like at the park and stuff. I was not a helicopter parent, but I really enjoyed letting, especially when I had one kid, letting them go out and explore and observing them and knowing enough to, like, I can be talking to you at the park, but I'm still watching the kid, and like I'm still observing what he's doing, and I know what is too far, or where he might get into trouble. And so I think that the skill of observing definitely paid dividends when it came to kids, for sure.
Yeah.
I also
Absolutely.
know that I can ignore a lot more things than my wife can. So
It's experience. It
yeah.
is. It's being there with them and understanding, like you said, their gate is off, or they're just faking it. They know, well, if I do this, mom will give me a cookie. Oh, well, then I'm going to do that. Dad won't fall for it because he's seen me every single day. But
Right.
yeah, and then that's a very, very simplistic example. So, well, then I want to ask all of the things you've learned about psychology and motivating animals and people. Are you using that on me? And now that our relationship as president, vice president, so I feel like you are, Keith.
No, I am not.
No, I don't feel like you are. I really don't.
It's interesting because especially in running the convention last year and running that committee and taking that over,
Mhm.
it really gave me kind of a test run into this president role. And just I'm very much into empowering people and getting them to do the things that they want to do.
Mhm.
After 4 or 5 years on the board here, if you ask someone to do something that they're just not into, it's just not going to get done.
Yeah.
So it's much better to find out, what are the things that you're really into and you're really gung ho about, and let's have you roll with that. And if it's something that we can harness into a goal that the board has, then let's find that and let's
Mhm.
do that. Yeah.
Cool. Cool. Well, I love it. I'm really glad that you were able to come on to the show tonight. Brock is at the Festival of Lights at the zoo in Cincinnati. So I thought it
Nice.
was appropriate. He experienced the zoo, and we'll talk about it. But I do appreciate that you were able to come on fairly short notice. And I really feel like it's something that, and we've discussed this too, the kind of a transparency with the board members, just
Mhm.
understanding who they are and that, this is what they're focused on, this is where they're going, this is what they bring to the organization and to the board. So I think all of that really worked well for you to be here. So thank you for that. And that's it for the evening. Anything else you
Awesome.
want to add?
No,
Good.
thanks for having me on.
You're very welcome. All right.
Look forward to the next time.
Yes. All right. Good night, everybody.
I'm a dad, that's what I do.